please subscribe to this channel. So today I want to explain the current iPad lineup in mid-2022. Now all the iPads are coming out and you can buy all of them. I believe that the iPad Pro 12.9 or 11 will not be updated very soon. So this is basically the lineup we have during this year's. So the first one is the iPad Pro series. The first one is 12.9 inch. The main part of it is the promotion. Well, it is very expensive, but it also have a great discount. And the second one is the iPad Pro 11. It is sharing the same CPU and it also have 8 gigs of RAM and it support the promotion, which is a good choices if you want a premium small laptop. And the third one is the Apple 5, which is just released this month. It also have the M1 support and it also have the 8 gig RAM. However, it does not support the promotion and the price of it is a bit pricey and the storage is a bit limited to 64 gig. And then the fourth one is the iPad mini 6. It is also released last year. It is small size and it is supported by the A15 chip. It has 4 gig of RAM. It does not have the promotion and the price of it is quite expensive and the storage is just 64 gig. Finally, we have the basic iPad 2021. It does not have all the fancy function, but I believe that many students are now using this iPad. They can buy it at school, they can buy it in a cheaper way. It is very cheap, it is just about 300 US dollar. Many students are using it for Zoom learning and it supports the Apple Pencil 1. So in this video, I will explain each of them and I will show you the pros and cons of each of them. So let's start with the first one, iPad Pro series.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 5.
So the first iPad Pro 12.9 inch, I also own one myself. There are different pros and cons of it. The first one is the 128 Hz refresh rate. The promotion function is very good and I really hope all my Mac products have this function. Also because of this function, I upgraded the iPhone to the 12 to the 13 Pro Max. The 120 Hz refresh rate enabled the system to run in a very smooth way. Whether the system look like smooth or not does not depend on the CPU, but depends on the 120 Hz refresh rate. So in my previous video, I explained why the 10.5 inch iPad Pro is still very good because of the promotion technology. So the first one is the most important thing to consider. The second thing is the XDR display. It is only limited to the 12.9 inch one. I think it is quite good, but not that important. But if you want to watch Netflix or YouTube in many times, so HDR is of course a bonus, but it also make the price of the iPad go up by 100 US dollar, which is not that good. I hope that the price will be lower down in the next generation. And the third point is that because of the 12.9 inch, the screen size is quite good. Although I hope that we can have a larger screen like the Samsung Ultra there. 14 or 15 inch is so important. I hope that in the future we can get one. But up to now, for the 12.9 inch, it is also quite good. I'm working in the education sector. I think using an iPad Pro is great for note-taking or teaching, or if you are a person who loves to draw or to write something, the 12.9 inch is good for you to do drawing if you would like to use some apps like Procreate. And the fourth point is the multitasking. Because of the big campus, you can have a smooth multitasking at the same time. For me, I do not use that much multitasking. The most scenario I use is to read an article and then have a dictionary on the side of it so that I can reading and then check the words I did not know before. And finally, uh, the iPad Pro 12.9 inch have the largest student discount. It has $100 discount, so that is very good. Um, if you just buy in the back to school season, if you get an AirPods and you get the student discount, so in total you can have nearly $200 deduction, which is extremely uh, competitive to other selling points. So far, so good. You can see there's a lot of pros here, but there is some bad points there or some drawbacks. The first one is, of course, it is expensive, especially with the XDR. It is now $100 more. I personally, I hope that I do not have to pay 100 extra for the XDR. A normal screen for me is just fine. But if in this case, I still need to buy with the XDR because there is no other choices. And the second point, it is an old design. So please pay attention to this point. The design is as old as the 2018 model. So nearly 4 years, there's no much design changes. So I think you should wait for the next brand new Outlook design. And the fourth point is the webcam is in a bad position. While many people say about this, we usually use the iPad in a landscape mode. So, uh, but in landscape mode, the webcam is on the left hand side, so it makes you look like does not pay attention or does not show respect to the audience. So I hope that in the next few generations, the webcam could be placed uh, in a good point in the landscape mode. And finally, it is a bit heavy. For me, I do not use Magic Keyboard. I do not like to use some cases with cover because it adds the weight to my usage. I usually use this to drawing or teaching, so that a a small cases without cover is perfect for me. And also like the one I'm using, I can directly attach the Apple Pencil to the iPad, which is very good. So similarly, the iPad Pro 11 one is having some more features similar to the 12.9 inch. The first one is, of course, the promotion function. It makes the iPad look so smooth and it is very good. And the second thing, it is a premium design, so you can have a large screen. And then the third one is, of course, because of the 11 inches, it is also good for note taking, but a bit smaller compared to the 12.9 inches. And it is a bit light than the 12.9 inch, so if you carry it around to and from your office, it is okay. But the cons is also similar. The first one is old design, I did not explain, or the webcam bad position. Without the XDR display, the price is the same, which is good. So you can see whether it is a good one or not. If you want it, it get more expensive. But if you do not want it, the price stay the same, about $100 cheaper, which is good. And but the last point, it is not a fault, but I think Apple should really consider, because the iPad Pro 11 is now very, very similar to the Air 5, except that for the 4 speaker or except for the promotion, but it is getting similar to the Air 5 now. So now jump to the Air 5 to see what's new in this newly released iPad Air 5. So now we have the new iPad Air 5. The first good point of it is of course the M1 support, and to my surprise it also comes with 8 gigs of RAM. So for a middle price of it, and you have the 8 gigs of RAM, which is extremely good. Consider the Air 2. The Air 2 just have 2 gigs of RAM and it gets 7-year hardware support. So for 8 gigs of RAM, we can assume that you can have 7, 8 or 9-year hardware support, which is extremely good. So if you want to use an iPad for a long term, iPad Air 5 is a good starting point. And the third good point of it is the USB-C support, which is good because you have many USB-C cables or USB-C devices, so you do not need to carry out another charging cables. And also you can transfer your file super fast to your external hard drive or something. And the final point is vibrant color choices. You can have different color, blue, white, and black, and so many vibrant color than the iPad Pro series. But there is quite a number of disadvantage here. The first one is the most important one. It does not have the promotion function. So without promotion, for me, I personally, I do not want to buy it. I would rather buy a refurbished iPad Pro. And it is a bit pricey without the promotion and with only 64 storage. It is very, very expensive. So the final point is that because there exists some second-hand one or refurbished one, uh, the iPad Air 5 is less competitive than the refurbished iPad Pro 11 in the 2020. If I were you, I would simply get the refurbished one from Apple Store itself. As I said, I have the iPad Pro 12.9 inch myself. I use this for mainly teaching or carry back and from the office. But personally, I own a iPad Mini 5, which is extremely cheap for me because I get it in the second-hand market. So for the new iPad Mini 6, there are numbers of good points there. The first one is of course the pocket size is very small. We can use this in our leisure moment or when I just want to go to a activity. I will sometimes bring an iPad mini to me because it is very light. So if I put it in my backpack, I do not feel it heavy. I can use this for my recreational or some ad hoc document reading. And the second thing is the USB-C, and the third thing is the light of it. I really enjoy the pocket size, and it is very light. And finally, it has vibrant color there. So if you really want a small iPad to carry around with you while you are at an activity or you go to traveling, which is a good choice, but there are numbers of disadvantage. The first one is it does not have the promotion display. all the iPad mini Live does not have it. I hope that there's one in the future. And the second point, it is a bit pricey. If I would rather get the iPad mini 5 myself because it is a lot more cheaper, which is about 200 US dollar. And the final one, we need to pay attention to this point. During the back to school seasons, there is no gift delivered if you buy a Mini 6. So if you buy an Air 5 or the iPad Pro, you can get an AirPod. But if you are in the back to school season, you cannot get any gift if you buy a Mini 6. So please pay attention to this point. Finally, we have the iPad 2021. There is no video showing by the Apple because this is the most basic and most cheap iPad, but it is also most welcome. Nearly all students they get one from their school. There's some different kind of discounts, and also in the current situation, many students are studying at home and they will need to use the Zoom for learning or the Google Meet for learning. So this iPad, there are different advantages of it. The first one, it is upgraded this year. In the last generation, it only have 32 gigs of SSD, which is very limited. But for the 64 gig, you can now have a really enough room if you just do the note taking or document reading. You do not need to spend extra money to upgrade your SSD. So the second point is of course it is very cheap, but because of its cheapness, um, there is not much student discount about this iPad. So please pay attention to this point. And the third one, it is 3 gig of RAM support, so you can expect it to have 4 to 5 or 7 years iOS support, which is still good. It also have the A13 support, which is enable you to do all the tasks. I think in today's standard, the CPU does not make any difference here, so do not need to care whether it is a older design or not. So there's a number of disadvantages here. The first one is the screen gap. It is not a laminated screen, so that if you use your iPad Pencil, you can feel that the content is below the glasses. It means that there is a gap between the content and the screen, uh, um, but you'll get used to that one. And the second point, it does not have the promotion, of course. And the third point is that it is a super outdated design. This design is, I think, 5 to 6 years old and it is unchanged. And I do not think the iPad is going to change the design in the future. And the third one is that it is less competitive than the iPad Pro 10.5 2017. So you can see my another video where I explain that the iPad Pro 10.5 have all the features we love about, and it is just 2050 US dollar, which is cheaper than the base iPad here. So if I were you, I would get the second-hand iPad Pro 10.5H myself. So far so good. I explained all the pros and cons of each iPad model. So if I were you, I would pay attention to the promotion here because it makes your iPad look so good. If I were you, I will simply go for the iPad Pro or get the refurbished one from Apple Store, which is very good. But if you want a pocket-sized iPad, I think the Mini 6 is also good because I told you that I also have a Mini 5 with me. The pocket-sized iPad is so convenient. You can use this in your daily activity or when you go for a leisure trip yourself. Another point I would like to make is this one. If you want your iPad to have a long-term usage, I think that you should upgrade the iPad Pro to 256 gig of SSD because it can enable you to use it for a number of different years. But if you are a casual user, you just want to do some note taking or some Netflix watching, I think 64 is enough. I do not recommend you to upgrade the SSD to 2056 because in that case it will get extremely expensive. And if I were you, I would simply jump to the iPad Pro series rather than the Air 5 or Mini 6. So here is some benchmark comparison. You can pause the video to watch this. But for me personally, I think the Geekbench comparison is not that important because in the iOS support, you mainly use the iPad for single usage. Multitasking is unusual in the iPad system, so for each CPU, it does not make a difference. So there are a number of things I think you should pay attention if you want to choose your iPad. The first one is of course the promotion. Really get this one, even if you need to get the refurbishment because promotion display is extremely important factor to see whether it is a smooth uh, running or the smooth experience. If you get a M1 but without the promotion, your screen will look so slow or laggy. And the second point is the RAM. You should have 4 gig of RAM or more. The first generation iPad Pro have 4 gigs of RAM. I can ensure that it will get many years hours support and your apps will stay in the background for a long time. And the fourth point is it is the screen size because if you are a education persons or if you're working in the education sector, uh, working with a large screen can help your teaching in a very efficient way. A small screen with a small screen you cannot write that much of thing. And finally, the weight of it. If you carry around a backpack, it does not really that kind of matters. For me, 12.9 is heavy, but I carry with me in my backpack, so it does not make a difference to me. So please pay attention to these 4 important points when you consider to buy an iPad. There is a additional bonus point here. Some of you may find that it is a bit pricey because you need to pay about 120 US dollar to get the cellular or the 5G support. For me, I like to buy a second-hand one in the market with a 5G or LTE support. Uh, I like the 5G support because I need to sometimes work during my taking train or something. I can mark my student assignment on the train. I can mark the student assignment if I am going to another places. So the 5G support is important for you to do work. But if you are a person who like to watch Netflix or something, I do not think you need to pay for it. So the main point here is this one. Buy a 5G or LTE support if you go to a second-hand market, but I do not recommend you to buy directly from Apple because the fee is extremely expensive. So this is my comparison and summary. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you can help me by subscribing to the YouTube channel because I will from time to time explain my view on the Apple product or in the Windows product. Thank you for watching the videos.